Hey, welcome. We still have Steve Argyle. Dan's still in Japan. We're going to talk about a very not controversial topic about AI. It's you mentioned, like, if you want to get spicy, we can talk about AI. We haven't done it a lot on the podcast, so we probably ought to talk about this. I mean, we're creatives, and yeah.
And that is a big thing in our industry right now.
I just got a new computer. Excuse me. And going in through and having to turn off all the AI, it wants, I can't believe it's everywhere. Like, I open a new Word document and I have to go turn off AI things that wants to write my story for me. Like, in Word, it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. I had that experience where I wrote something and then I went to reread it and I'm like, wait, these are not my words. Like, this is, I was fairly careful about what happened. And so I rewrote it and it like auto corrected to what it thought was a better sentence. And I was like, okay, this has to stop.
I've never had that. That's horrifying. We did have, like, our company, we have like G Suite, and Gmail incorporated AI, and we're like, guys, we're a creative writing company. We can't turn off the AI. We want no AI writing anything, even our emails. Turn it off, please. We had to go to corporate and have them turn it off for us, because you can't, there's no feature that our team could turn off. We had to call them to turn it off. Otherwise, everyone's emails had the AI was, as soon as you started writing, you'd write the whole thing for you. It's like, that's part of what's bugging me about AI.
Is that kind of force feeding.
Yeah, it's like it's everywhere and it's force feeding. And it's already annoying. Like, when I get this new computer, the number of things I have to turn off on Microsoft Word, there's the grammar check, right? But then there's a commonly confused words separate click. And if you click off the grammar check, that button unhighlights checked. So you have to turn on the grammar check and then turn off the other options for grammar check and then turn off the grammar check. Otherwise, they'll all stay on. And so I'm writing, the new Mistborn story, and blue lines are showing up saying, I know this is a fragment. Fragments are used all the time in creative writing. Don't wavy line me the fragment. Anyway, there's my rant. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So you already have to turn off all that stuff. And then the AI. It's just like another layer of turning things off.
Mm-hmm. So I think AI is a little bit tricky to talk about because they're kind of trying to lump it all in as one big thing.
Yeah.
So if you don't want AI to write stories or do art, then you also don't want it to cure cancer.
Right. Which is not necessarily how it is.
Yeah.
I actually have found that the AI is in generally better search method than Google's been terrible lately. Right? Mm-hmm. We've talked about it. Google's getting worse. I don't know if it's Google's fault or just the way the internet works. But what AI is really good at is, it's like, I know there's a word that means this, but I can't think of the word. I think it starts with this letter or this letter. What word am I thinking of? And it has shocking accuracy to be like, you wanted this word. I'm like, that's the word. Where before I would have spent hours, no, not hours, but it would have taken me 20 minutes on dictionary.com looking through the source. And it's because I have the wrong letter that it starts with, but the AI can guess that. The search functionality for it is actually pretty good. And I like that. I don't want it writing my emails for me.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a little bit where I think we need to separate, because if your goal and your business model and everything is, we want to create a way to research drugs faster and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, you can have my art for that. I don't know what you would use it for.
Right.
But that's not a competing or infringing purpose.
Right. If there were for some reason the large language model could help cure cancer, you can use my books to train your large language model. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. But what we're getting is, we're going to create a thing that competes directly with you.
And it uses your art style.
Yeah.
Taken from your art. And that's like a kick in the head, right? Just an absolute kick in the head. And again, we don't want to act like we're Luddites who don't want to see technology progress.
Yeah.
But You don't
But
have
there
to
are-
kick us in the head while you're doing it.
Yeah. And I almost feel like it's counterproductive, right? If their best profit model is a wide subscription for people to make memes with, then that's going to be what they go with. And they're going to focus a lot on being competitive there rather than scientific advancement and the sort of things where we want to see progress.
Yeah. So we at Dragonsteel, when it was brand new, the newest, like right in that COVID era, right post-COVID, when large language models, everyone's like, hey, AI is actually good now. Because this is like ChatGPT 3 or 4 or something like that. It had been around, but it wasn't good. And the art ones had always been terrible. And they started to not be terrible. They weren't great yet. They started to not be terrible. And so, like everyone, we downloaded and played with these things. But it's like how when Napster first came out, I immediately got Napster. Like, look, it's so cool. And then I started to realize, oh yeah, these are songs that are made by people that I should not be, ripping off their songs. So I moved to iTunes, right? And the same thing happened with us. Isaac and I sat down and we're like, we just have to take a no AR stance, even in concept art. Which is where we were thinking of using it. And so we just had to kind of draw that line in the sand for ourselves. It's like we can't even trust Adobe because it sounds like Adobe's said they weren't trained on other artists, and then they were. So we said we're not going to use any AI art for anything. And I even canceled the subscription that I had to do goofy things, pictures of my kids as wrestlers or things like that, just because it's like until we figure out the ethical side of this, we need to be real careful. And we even used to use it on Intentionally Blank a little bit. Donald would pop up, what does it generate for us?
We would generate all sorts of, different funny images from words we made, but we no longer do it.
We no longer do that because we just said this, we can't guarantee that it's ethical. In fact, we can pretty much guarantee it's not right now.
Yeah. And I get the appeal. And at first I was very excited because it wasn't good enough to go to prime time, but it was good enough for people to get a feel for starting something creative, right? I loved the idea that you could have this concept, put it in a little image generator, and you could see your ideas start to come to life. I liked that because I thought most of the barrier of entry in creative endeavors is that people are afraid and they don't know where to start, and there's just not a thing. There's not an easy jumping in point, and I felt like maybe AI could do that. But it quickly got to where it was replacing all of these things instead. It wasn't that people went, "That's cool. I'm going to go ahead and make my own.
I'm going to learn how to do this." And
these days, like you see a lot of artists who they're like, well, I use it because it makes me more creative. It's like I use it for concepting and stuff like that, and it just makes me way more creative. And to me, it sounds a lot like saying, you know what? So when I go to the gym, I bring the alien loader droid, right? And I can lift so much more weight now that I use the alien's loader droid.
Yeah.
And you go, that's a super high-tech way to miss the point, Because they've actually started studies on what does it do to people to be using this, and a lot of it is on students where they're like they're not learning very well when they're using AI.
We're having problems because the point of writing an essay in school is not to have the essay.
Yeah.
Right? The point of writing an essay in your English class is to learn logical thinking so you can present your ideas. And you will need to do that in meetings. You will need to do that in ideating and brainstorming. And if you're just having the program write it for you, you're not learning the skill that the essay is supposed to actually demonstrate. It's the same sort of thing here. You're
going to atrophy those skills rather than build them because something's doing it for you.
Yeah.
And maybe another time we can talk about how to start ideas and things like that for people who are kind of intimidated. Because the blank page is the hardest part, right?
Yeah. Well, not anymore, but it used to be, right? And that's the point you want to get to where it's not. Let me ask this. Like I'm anticipating the comments section of this, where I think people are going to say, look, I understand, but the cat's out of the bag. Right? Like once China made their own and they don't respect US copyrights, then the cat is out of the bag. What's our response to this? Box is open and Pandora has let the things out and you can't put them back in.
So here's why I don't like that argument. It's a lot of that. It's kind of that same of, well, if somebody else isn't going to rob this guy, I might as well, because somebody's going to do it. Like, here's a wanderer on the path. I might as well rob him because it's going to happen. And the thing is, it is kind of out of the bag. That doesn't mean we have to like fully endorse it. And in a lot of ways, there are like models on the internet that are free and they've been downloaded for local stuff, and that you really can't get rid of. Yeah. But you can absolutely say, hey, OpenAI, Midjourney, stability, like it was an infringing act to train on all of this copyrighted data. So you need to start over. And I know that's real harsh and that's a lot of money, but they have a lot of money.
And they also do restart periodically. As I understand, I could be wrong, that when they build a new model, they start from scratch on the new model oftentimes because they want to try and train it in a different direction and things like that. So it's not something they don't do. My worry is, because there's some class action lawsuits from writers about this. My worry is the business world's answer to a lawsuit is, okay, we're losing the lawsuit, pay them. That's not going to work here. I will not sell my, I won't be paid any amount of money because the thing that you're doing is a no from me, dog. You can't, I don't ever want you to train for writing fiction on my books, ever. And I'm not going to change that. No matter how much money you give me, I'm sorry. As you said, other uses, sure. I can be of a benefit to humankind in maybe some way, but I don't want it writing stories using my stuff.
Yeah, and I don't want them using my stuff, not because it's a threat to me directly. Like you are not going to have any trouble selling books.
I actually told this to my students just recently. That exact thing. I said, this is not a threat to me. In the same way that the fact that there are generic versions of Claritin out there, Claritin, the company, still exists. You can still go buy Claritin. I think that even if there were generic Brandon Sanderson, number one, I'm not convinced that they will ever quite be able to replicate the soul of a living writer in creating something new. I could be wrong. I do believe that the writing portions they will get so that they can write an entire book that would be enjoyable. I fully believe that they will get there and not too long. I don't think they can ever replicate the spark, but maybe that's just my woo-woo sort of head in the clouds, English majory sort of thing. I don't care if they're a threat to me or not. They're a threat to all of my students.
Yeah. It's all the entry level stuff that they're gonna kill.
Yep.
Like as a professional artist, honestly, AI is kind of good for business because right now, at least, a lot of companies are like, well, we don't know where it's going to land on copyright. So even if we are okay with it conceptually, we want people that we know are doing it the old-fashioned way, if you want to put it that way.
And the highest paying, we probably are among the higher paying where it comes to fantasy art, right? We really like artists. We really like really nice art. We like people who make the art to be able to take the time and dedicate to it, and we're willing to pay for that. So our artists are not going to get impacted because, that's what we want and we want to be able to work with you and get exactly what we want. You're right. It's not a threat to the established artists nearly as much.
Yeah, and the fine art world is probably going to do better. But like you say, it's the people who aren't there yet.
Yeah.
It's going to be so hard to get entry level gigs and kind of do the paying your dues part of it that I'm kind of worried it's just going to it's going to be such a hindrance on the creative industries that you won't get innovation from people anymore. You know?
Well, and you won't get the big problem is, and I'm sure we'll have some in our comments because it's the tech bros who are like not seeing. It's like inconceivable that we would have a problem with this.
So my introduction was that I got invited to a like real early version of DALL-E, and they sent me an invite. And they're like, we use some of your art to train this, and we want to see what you think of it. And I started playing with it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad, right? And I as politely as I could kind of said, I know you're really excited, and thanks for being fans and stuff, but artists at least are not going to respond well to this because you're taking their stuff and you're competing directly with them, and in some cases you're changing their own brand perception. You know?
So another argument that people make constantly that I would like to address is they're like, well, this is how humans learn. So why is it bad for the machine to do it?
Well, for one, I mean, the biggest thing is, it just straight up isn't a human. And
we have certain protections for humans we don't for other things.
Yeah. But when you look at it, the scale of it is so far beyond human that it's hard to say that's still a fair argument. That somebody can learn this stuff and they can imitate your style and they can do all that. It's like, yeah, but they can't do it billions of times,
right?
Almost instantly, right? They can't then like let anyone do that. Like, yeah.
Well, and human beings have this artistic inclination that maybe it's again my woo-woo, but if you learn on some people, the more you write or the more that you do art, it's going to become yours. You won't be able to prevent it because your own artistic inclinations will drive you to explore what you can do with this art. And the computer can't do that. And that's a very big difference. It's a very big difference for me to read Wheel of Time and start writing my first book as a Wheel of Time knockoff. That by the end is very much not a Wheel of Time knockoff. That is an amalgamation of all of my influences, but with me saying, here is the art I want to make, and going and making it. And it's very different than here's a machine we're feeding in. Oh, it's going to take it an hour. Okay, it's now can do a Steve Argyle, and it can do it perfectly, and it'll give you 3,000 variations on it. Just give us a second.
Yeah, there's a lot of happy accidents that happen as you're learning, and I feel like a lot of what creates your style is kind of embracing some of those accidents. Like a lot of visual art is deciding what you include and what you don't. Like the difference between art and photography is you are deciding to take things out and simplify things that a photo just wouldn't do. And you're emphasizing certain things, you're exaggerating certain things, you're downplaying certain things, and that's what creates your distinct visual style.
Right.
And at least the way that I understand AI works as kind of a big amalgamation, it's never really going to be able to do something brand new.
Yeah. I mean, there's an argument that humans can't either. That we are like all of our influences amalgamated in some way. But I just think there's something different about a person developing their own style over time and then going and creating art. Like a computer can never have a statement. It can never make any statement. Now, with the argument people say is, yeah, but the person putting in the prompt, they can make a statement and things like that. Speaking of art and artists, do you know that have you heard of the graphic novel that I wrote, the little middle grade graphic novel? It's called Super Awesome Danger.
No, how have I not?
I'll show you. I've got the proofs with me here. So it came because Oliver did some art that I thought was really cool. and I started writing a story based on it. And then he sat and gave me feedback on the story. This is during COVID,
Awesome.
of what to do next.
Have you ever heard of Axe Cop?
Yes, it's less weird than Axe Cop because it's my narrative structure. I didn't be like, what do you want to see? I said, all right, here's how I'm writing this. Do you have any feedback for what would make it more fun for you? I used him kind of more as an editor rather than a, an Axe Cop first line. I love Axe Cop. It was hilarious. I don't know if it's still going, but when it first came out and was big, I enjoyed reading it. Which those who don't know, Axe Cop was like a brother wanted to connect with his very much younger sibling that he, and so had him tell a story and then he illustrated it, straight as the kid said it. And it was about an Axe Cop who wanted to chop people's heads off.
It's a sidekick who's a Tyrannosaurus Rex and all.
Yeah, this is not that. This is me constructing a story, but with Oliver's input and help and his art. Whenever I describe something, he'd go do some concept art, and then we gave that to our artists to say, "Here's the concept art. Make sure it moves along like this." And so, yeah.
I mean, my biggest problem with it is the databases, right?
Yeah.
That these databases need to be ethically sourced.
Right. And we can get to a world where I think everyone can have what they want.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't have a problem. I'm with it being a cool tool for people to use, particularly when they can't afford to pay for an illustrator, or they're just concepting, or they want to, that sounds like it could be really cool. It also still is worrying though, that atrophy thing, you wanted to be an artist. We talked about it all the last episode. You weren't an artist. You had to go and learn it. And that's what makes it so that we have all this cool art that you've come up with. It's if you don't have to go learn that. I see a little version of this still in self-publishing with books, that learning the hard parts of fiction often comes down to failing. And if you write a book, you put it up, and you don't go, I wrote my first book, I eventually shared with people, it was a disaster. And having to learn to revise, having to fail, having to struggle to be how do I actually make these stories work the way I want to? I just worry about things being too easy, too quick, and us losing the hard part of making art is the part that makes you an artist.
Absolutely. I feel like the process of art is absolutely the most valuable part of it. The end product is great because you get paid for it.
Yes.
But the reasons to go through the process are so beneficial. In visual art, you learn about all kinds of topics because you have to research them, but you also simply learn to observe and pay attention to things as they are. One of the early things that artists tend to learn is you need to unlearn how to see, is kind of how they put it, which is we think in symbolic terms a lot of times. We know what an eyeball looks like. It's two ellipses with a circle in the middle. That's not actually how it's put together. And if you do that, it doesn't look realistic. And so you struggle through, well, what does it really look like? What is it? How is it really built? And you start to learn to observe things and deconstruct things, and then that lets you reconstruct things. And it's so valuable, but you can't really fake it and get it some other way. When I do studies and I draw something in front of me, it is very rare that I don't see something that I haven't noticed before. And this is stuff that I know real well, like my wife. I'll do a portrait of her. I'm like, I've never noticed this.
I had that experience when I took a drawing class in college because I'm like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm not going to be an illustrator, but I want to work with them. I want to have lots of art in my books. I should take a drawing class. And the eye-opening experience of having to draw something, I had that. I mean, I think everybody should do it. It's really useful, particularly with having an instructor kind of talk you through some of this. Anyway, I cut you off.
Oh, no, that's it. I feel like everyone should do art as well. I feel like humans have a creative drive, and we a little bit stifle that culturally because we focus on, well, what use is this? Are we going to make money on it? How's it going to progress? I tend to draw a parallel between like a creative pursuit and like exercise, right? Everybody should do it. You don't have to be professional at it. You don't have to go crazy with it, and you don't have to be good at it.
Yep.
Right? It is good for you regardless of anything else. If
you should be proud of it.
Yes.
I keep coming back to this idea. Like, if you watch the opening lecture to my class, I think I cover it this year. I usually cover a few ideas. I know I cover one of these. I think I cover them both. One I think I cover in a later lecture, but there's two ideas I talk about a lot. One is that the idea that you are actually the product of creating art, not the book.
I love that. Yeah.
Right? Like, you are the piece of art. What it has done to you to create the art is the art. And the book is a nice side product. Like you said, love to be able to share that and sell that and experience people. But the truth is, every book, every word you write is making you into a better writer. And that's the masterpiece, right? AI art cuts that part out.
Yeah. Because, you learn the most from the hardest parts.
Yep.
And if you get stuck and you're like, well, I'm just going to see what Midjourney does, you've robbed yourself of the best part of it. Like, yeah, it's hard. But you're not going to really progress and grow if you're not challenged. And
you're abdicating to the machine.
Yeah. And that's one of my biggest concerns actually about AI art, is that it's going to stifle kind of everybody when it comes to creative pursuits. Not just people who are looking to go into it professionally.
Yeah. The other big thing that I mention in my class frequently is I tell the story about how ideas are cheap. In storytelling, a lot of people are like, my idea is so precious. I'm like, no, your idea isn't precious. Ideas are the easy part. The skill to turn the idea into something that has the effect on the audience that you want. The 10 years of practice it takes to learn that's the hard part, and that's the valuable part. It's not the idea. There are some ideas that are better than others, but a bad idea in the hands of a great writer is a great book. And a fantastic idea in the hands of a bad writer is a bad book. And once again, the ideas are the cheap part. And with AI writing, we are shortcutting to the cheap part. We're letting, we're taking only the part that I consider the least important, and we're putting that in the hands of the human beings. And all the things that are most important, we're abdicating to the machine. That really worries me.
Yeah, same here.
So last thing, do you have any advice? New artists starting out right now. They're worried about AI art. They're worried about breaking in. They don't have the opportunity to fake their way through an interview and then have bosses that are too busy to fire them until they actually learn how to do what they're doing. What do they do right now?
So what I'm seeing as far as what I feel is successful is when I started, one of the things that was very beneficial is name recognition, right? You had artists that they were doing well because you knew their name, you knew their body of work.
Right.
You had Brahm, right? And Brahm is going to, and Frank Frazetta and all these sort of things. And we kind of started going through a period where it wasn't name recognition, it was brand recognition, right? You didn't have the name attached to it, but you knew like the League of Legends style, right? You didn't necessarily know who did it, but it started kind of moving toward the corporation owns everything about it. And what I'm seeing now is with the threat of AI, a lot of artists are like, well, I need to kind of authenticate myself and show people that I'm doing this myself. And the actual best part of that is what they're really doing is sharing their process with people online. And that is letting people connect to the human being behind the artwork. I feel like that is, at least currently, the best way to go. Like, share that best part. Share that you are struggling with this and how you solve that problem. show people what it is to create, not just what has been created. If I were starting out, that is what I would do.
My advice is kind of similar for writers with a different tack. And I know this is dangerous to say, but I sincerely think we can trust that people are going to want artist-created books. That even if the AI gets to where it's indistinguishable, people are going to want the books written by writers. And I think they're going to want someone who has a distinctive voice, who has put in those years. And books, unlike art, are actually pretty still niche. I have to say this, like not everybody buys a book to read for fun, a fiction novel in a given year. In fact, I would say more people in the population don't than do. All those people use art quite a bit, but they don't always buy a book. So it's already kind of a thing that's a little bit boutique. I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to weather it. I think go forward and trust that we who love books are going to love the books that people are writing. And that's I think my ending advice there.
I agree. I also feel that people want to connect with other people. And when there's a human on the other side of it, people are going to be more drawn to it.
Yep. People watch humans play video games. You could put a computer playing that game and it would do just a fantastic job and never lose. They still
who
go
wants
watch.
to see that?
Yeah. Who wants that? They watch the streamers. So how's that, Dan?